Bloomberg Audio Studios.
Podcasts, radio, news.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Here are the stories we're following today.
Karen, stocks in Europe are on the rise ahead of a key rate decision from the Bank of England. Let's go to London and get the very latest with Bloomberg's Ewan Potts. Ewan.
Nathan and Karen, decision day for the Bank of England. But with the UK's general election now exactly 2 weeks away, every single economist in our survey expects the bank to hold rates today at 5.25%, avoiding making a move which could be seen as political. But with inflation now down to the 2% target, investors will be watching for signs of when officials will make their first move. And keep an eye on the vote split. Last time, 2 members wanted a cut. Will the Doves win any converts this time around? In London, I'm Ewan Potts, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Ewan, thanks. Well, it's a busy morning for policy decisions in Europe. And a bit of a surprise, the Swiss National Bank cut rates once again, another 1/4 point to 1.25%. A small majority of the economists surveyed by Bloomberg anticipated no change. And in Norway, the central bank left rates unchanged at 4.5%.
In Asia, Karen, a Japanese bank is sending a global warning on higher for longer rates. Norinchukin Bank surprised the market this week by saying it would unload $63 billion in bonds to stem losses. While Norinchukin and the Japanese government have expressed confidence in the bank's ability to weather the losses, the episode is a reminder of the dangers still lurking in the financial system 15 months after the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank.
Well, back at home, Nathan, U.S. Treasuries are on the brink of breaking even during a roller coaster first half of the year. A Bloomberg gauge of returns in the world's biggest bond market is now down just 0.1% for 2024. The rebound comes after Treasuries lost as much as 3.4% for the year in April. Investors are betting that cooling prices will convince the Fed to cut rates sooner and by more than officials have signaled.
Let's turn to news out of Washington now, Karen. The families of Boeing 737 MAX crash victims are asking the Justice Department to slap a massive fine on the plane maker. Bloomberg's Ed Baxter has details.
In a letter to the DOJ, they're asking for nearly $25 billion, saying the amount is legally justified and clearly appropriate. The letter comes a day after Boeing CEO Dave Calhoun faced a grilling in front of the Senate subcommittee accused of having a broken safety culture. The letter says $14 to $22 billion of the total amount could be suspended if Boeing were to devote those funds to an independent corporate monitor and improvements to its safety programs. The attorney representing the family said they deserve some payout as well. Ed Baxter, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, Ed, thanks. Now let's turn to politics and a new view on the November election from China. U.S. intelligence agencies have found Chinese leaders have no clear preference between President Trump or President Biden or former President Trump, and they think ties will continue to deteriorate no matter who wins. That's according to U.S. officials who asked not to be identified. Mark Franklin, senior portfolio manager at Manulife Asset Management, says the assessment is not a surprise.
If you look at the Biden administration's actions rather than words, we have seen a significant bipartisan consensus forming across the aisle in the US of the need to address the perceived asymmetries in the trading and the industrial relationship between China and the US economy. That is unlikely to change no matter who wins the November election.
Mark Franklin at Manulife says the difference between Biden and Trump on China will likely come down to style over substance. Chinese officials think a second Trump administration could mean unpredictable policymaking and new anti-China measures, while Biden could look to strengthen regional partnerships to push back against China.
Karen, a high-stakes congressional race in Virginia is revealing yet another example of former President Trump's influence on the Republican Party. With 98% of the vote in, State Senator John McGuire leads incumbent Congressman Bob Good in the 5th District primary race by 0.6%, or around 300 votes. That is too close to call. This race is likely headed for a recount. Good is the chairman of the House Freedom Caucus, but he lost Trump's endorsement after he backed Florida Governor Ron DeSantis for president. McGuire won the Trump endorsement and actually declared victory Tuesday night, but Good is expressing confidence he has a path to victory as well, with outstanding ballots to be counted as soon as today.
Well, Nathan, holidays are usually a busy time for car dealers, so this couldn't have come at a worse time. A cyber attack shut down thousands of dealerships across the country during the Juneteenth holiday. The incident targeted CDK Global, the software provider many dealers rely on for almost all their business. According to Proton, a cybersecurity firm for the auto industry, the outage left some dealers unable to function at all, while others had to switch to paper for routine services like oil changes. Proton said some CDK functions were restored by the afternoon, but the service is still not fully operational.
Karen, Citigroup says artificial intelligence is likely to displace more jobs in banking than anywhere else. A report from the bank predicts more than half the jobs in the financial sector could be automated. Bloomberg's James Woolcock reports.
Long-established jobs and firms will vanish, and global profits will be $170 billion higher in the next 5 years. That's the verdict of Citigroup's report into how AI will transform the world of finance. It says 54% of jobs in banking can be automated, although firms may keep headcount steady as they hire AI managers to keep in line with regulations. Some of the world's biggest banks are already poaching AI engineers and looking to integrate them into their portfolios. In London, James Woolcock, Bloomberg Radio.
All right, James, thank you. Well, Advanced Micro Devices says a recent cyber attack will not have a material impact on business. The second largest maker of PC processors launched an investigation this week after reports that an organization called Intel Broker had breached its systems. Yesterday, AMD followed up to say that the intrusion did not obtain business-critical information. AMD is the closest rival to NVIDIA in the contest to build advanced artificial intelligence accelerators, making its technology, know-how, and proprietary information a valuable target. And now let's look at some of the other stories making news in New York and around the world. For that, we're joined by Bloomberg's Michael Barr. Michael, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. It will be another hot day in the Northeast. In New York City, an air quality alert is in effect today from 11 a.m. until 11 p.m. On this first day of summer, the highs will reach around 95 degrees, hotter than yesterday. This New York parent was trying to find ways to beat the heat.
We spend a lot of time in the sprinklers. We're taking breaks in the middle of the day. A good nap always helps. And, of course, plenty of ice cream.
Tomorrow will be the same with a chance of a late thunderstorm. Boston is forecast to hit 98 degrees today. In California, at least 12 wildfires are burning. The number of fires in that state is up 9% compared to this time last year. In New Mexico, there was zero containment overnight in deadly wildfires, forcing evacuations in multiple counties. Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham declared a state of emergency.
I know every New Mexican has every other New Mexican in their thoughts and prayers.
2 fire deaths were reported in New Mexico. Tropical storm Alberto is rumbling toward northeast Mexico as the first named storm of the season, carrying heavy rains that left 3 people dead. The region has been suffering under a prolonged severe drought. North Korea's state media says the new agreement between Russia and North Korea reached by their leaders requires the countries to use all available means to provide immediate military assistance in the event of war. The official Korean Central News Agency reported the language of the partnership agreement reached by its leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin in Pyongyang. Putin is now in Vietnam to strengthen ties with its longtime partner in Southeast Asia at a time when Moscow is facing growing international isolation because of its military actions in Ukraine. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy rolled out a new clemency program. Some of those who may benefit include women who were victims of domestic violence but were given long prison sentences for retaliating. The governor says he hopes the plan will address unfairness and inequities in New Jersey's justice system. Also attending the event, former New Jersey Governor Jim McGreevey, who has long been an advocate for clearing women who've been treated unfairly.
So what the governor is saying today is there's a place for mercy, there's a place for clemency.
Former Governor McGreevey and Governor Murphy made the announcement at Newark St. James AME Church. Global news 24 hours a day and whenever you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Michael Barr, and this is Bloomberg, Karen.
All right, Michael Barr, thank you. Time now now for the Bloomberg Sports Update with John Stashower. John, good morning.
Good morning, Karen. The Yankees have the best record in baseball, and until last night, their Cy Young Award-winning ace had yet to pitch at the stadium. Garrett Cole was back from the elbow injury, gave up a run in the first inning, none of the next three when he surrendered a hit to lead off the fifth. Cole was taken out, did not seem happy about that, and even less happy when the next Orioles batter hit a two-run homer. Baltimore led 5-1. The Yankees rallied the tie thanks to a homer and 4 RBIs by Giancarlo Stanton, but the Orioles scored twice in the 10th off Clay Holmes and won 7-6. Here was Aaron Boone on Cole.
I thought he was under control, and I thought as the outing went on, I thought he got a little bit better and had a little bit of everything. You know, got a strikeout with the breaking ball, flashed a good slider for a strikeout. I thought the cutter was a good pitch for him all night. Reached back for some heaters that he executed as well. So all in all, I thought he threw the ball well.
If the Yanks lose this afternoon, their AL East lead on Baltimore will be down to half a game. We'll see if Aaron Judge is back in the lineup. He sat out last night after getting hit in the hand with a pitch on Tuesday. Mets in Texas took a 3-1 lead on a Pete Alonso 2-run homer 6th inning, but Leody Taveras with a pinch hit 2-run shot in the 7th off Drew Smith. The Rangers won 5-3. The Mets' 7-game winning streak comes to an end. Red Sox won 7-3 in Toronto. Nationals beat Arizona 3-1. Giants lost to the Cubs 6-5 and then made the trip to Birmingham, where they will play the Cardinals tonight at venerable Rick Wood Field, built in 1910, the oldest baseball stadium in the country. It was where, in 1948, the late Willie Mays, at age 17, played his first professional game for the Birmingham Barons of the Negro Leagues. Mays grew up only 9 miles away. Before first pitch tonight, there'll be tributes to Mays, who, of course, passed away on Tuesday. Surprise in NBA coaching firing. Not that Detroit played well in Armani Williams. They went 14-68 and once lost 28 in a row. But Williams still owed $65 million. John Stashower, Bloomberg Sports. Karen, Nathan.
Coast to coast on Bloomberg Radio, nationwide on SiriusXM, and around the world on Bloomberg.com and the Bloomberg Business app. This is Bloomberg Daybreak.
Good morning, I'm Nathan Hager. With just months to go until the U.S. election, China sees little to no upside from the upcoming rematch between President Biden and former President Trump. That is the latest assessment from U.S. intelligence on Beijing's view that whoever wins, relations between the world's two biggest economies will continue on a long-term downward path. For more on this, we're joined by Daniel Ten-Cate, Bloomberg News executive editor for Asia's economy and government, joining us from our Hong Kong bureau. Dan, good morning. So does this assessment when it comes to China boil down to what difference does it make? Good morning.
Good morning. Yes, that's a good way to put it. There's really no favorite from China. They see downsides to both Biden and Trump, and it's very unclear that either one of them would be better for China at this point. They do have different characteristics, though. Biden has been much better at working with allies in the region to tighten export controls, in particular on the high-tech items like semiconductors. He's also more predictable on the world stage. There have been a steady stream of meetings between Biden administration officials and counterparts from Beijing. We just saw the first defense talks in a long time take place earlier this month with Donald Trump. He is disruptive to the allies, but he's also much more unpredictable and of course, started the trade war and rallied Congress against China so that you essentially have a bipartisan consensus to go hard after China now in Washington.
When it comes to that difference that Chinese officials might see between the predictability of a President Biden and an unpredictability of a returned Trump administration, is there a window that China sees to potentially take advantage?
It's in theory, yes, they would see, okay, if in Trump's unpredictability, some of the positive points are, from their perspective, they think he erodes U.S. prestige around the world just by being so unpredictable, by saying provocative things, doing provocative things, by taking on the allies, asking them to pay more, not having an issue blowing up those relationships. Trump also likes to make deals, so he's not ideological really about anything. thing, and so therefore the Chinese could potentially see an opportunity to gain there. On the other hand, they like certainty, and Donald Trump is very unpredictable, and he keeps them on edge. So, in a volatile world is riskier from a Chinese Communist Party perspective, where they like to have things under control so they can, stay in power and run things the way they see fit in China.
From what we're hearing from U.S. intelligence and our sources in China, Dan, what does this assessment, if anything, have to say about how China could pivot depending on who does come out victorious in November?
I think China sees it as essentially no matter what happens, they need to pursue the route that they're going, which is, we can't be dependent on the U.S. for big, technology in particular. We need to have technological breakthroughs no matter who takes power, Biden or Trump. We need to be able to stand on our own 2 feet. We need a financial system that can withstand heavy sanctions in case we come under that. We can't be subject can't be just blown around by U.S. export controls, U.S. sanctions, et cetera. We have to be able to have good trade relationships with the rest of the world and strong systems of our own. So I think that's the approach, no matter whether it's Biden or Trump. They'll try and be opportunistic where they can, but they're basically planning for the worst case scenario.
This is Bloomberg Daybreak Today, your morning brief on the stories making news from Wall Street to Washington and beyond.
Look for us on your podcast feed at 6 a.m. Eastern each morning on Apple, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.
You can also listen live each morning starting at 5 a.m. Wall Street time on Bloomberg 1130 in New York, Bloomberg 99.1 in Washington, Bloomberg 106.1 in Boston, and Bloomberg 960 in San Francisco.
Our flagship New York station is also available on your Amazon Alexa devices. Just say, Alexa, play Bloomberg 1130.
Plus, listen coast to coast on the Bloomberg Business app, SiriusXM, the iHeartRadio app, and on Bloomberg.com. I'm Nathan Hager.
And I'm Karen Moscow. Join us again tomorrow morning for all the news you need to start your day right here on Bloomberg Daybreak.